I have my.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Kendra McHale. I'm the Development Director here at YWCA, Northeastern New York. Thank you for joining our donation impact interviews. If you are wondering where your donations are going, this series is telling you. Today, we actually have the opportunity to be actually interviewing a board member, and I'll get to that in just 1 second. If you have not been watching, we have a $10,000 anonymous donor that will match up to that amount. So if you have not given to our organization, now is the time to double your donation. Yay. So our board member today is one of my all-time favorite board members from like the moment I met her, Catherine Stevens, everyone. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Kendra. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody watching.
Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know that you have a very busy schedule and you do a lot of great things in our community. So it really means the world to me that you were able to carve out some time for us today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Awesome. So let's just dive into some questions. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So tell us about you and then your role with the board.
Well, I've been on the board for 4 years, and it's been such an exciting journey to get to meet other women in the community around the capital region, because our board members aren't just from Schenectady. And it's been really great to see all of us work together to help eliminate racism and empower women, which is the mission of the Y. I live in the Stockade, so I live in the same neighborhood as YWCA. And so I'm not just invested in the mission, but I love that it's where I live. I get to see it when I walk around. I get to see how it participates in our city as a whole. And and that's the main campus. There are so many other buildings, but I used to be on the school board in Schenectady. I moved to Schenectady 7 years ago. I love it. I'm just really, I mean it when I'm like, I'm pumped to be here.
Yes. And we love having you as a neighbor too. We love it.
Oh, awesome. I'm ready to support the Y and all the Stockade membership meetings. I'm here.
Well, I love it. I love it. Thank you, neighbor. We appreciate you. So let's actually talk about why you decided to join the YWCA's board.
It's a very personal reason. I have lost family members to domestic violence, and I've had experience with abusive partners in my life. And on top of that very personal experience that I want to have anyone live through themselves, I also am very committed to the first part of our mission, which is eliminating racism, because we cannot fully empower women, cisgendered women, transgendered women. We cannot empower women of any kind if we do not eliminate racism, because racism is part of what's keeping us all from our truest, most authentic self. So I'm getting just like chills in even saying this out loud. So, and I also really love how YWCA is participating in education programs that aren't just about the victims of domestic violence. It's about how do we teach people to not to perpetuate domestic violence, how to recognize that they're in a not healthy and thriving relationship on their own, because it's more than physical violence. There's financial, there's emotional. I'm all about the education YWCA is putting out there, directly helping women in my community. The other thing, people don't, I think, realize that we serve women, and I forget the number of counties, but it's like more than 10 counties are served by YWCA as the largest domestic violence shelter in upstate New York. And I mean, the mission is huge. I want us to not have to exist anymore.
I'd be out of a job, Catherine. I would be out of a job.
You can raise money for puppies. Like raise money for puppies. Let's stop domestic violence, right? So yes. I'm committed to that.
And you're absolutely right. And actually, we just did an interview just about an hour ago with one of our staff members who runs the Rapid Rehousing program, and she really, Ashley, she brought light to even something that I wasn't even aware of as a peer, in the organization, that she's handling 35 cases right now of transitioning women from our shelter into their own homes to be able to kind of, recreate themselves And that just blows my mind. And she said she has at least 20 more that she's just trying to chug away at.
Wow.
So there is this need in our community. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, the last data that I saw, Schenectady County, next to New York City, is the #1 county for domestic violence cases.
Which is heartbreaking. We're not a big county.
Right.
We're not. And so,
Right.
so there's so many factors in play into what drives those numbers. And I'm going to say it again, racism is part of it. Yeah. So we got to keep working on it.
Well, and I appreciate what you're bringing to the table, and that you are so open-minded. And actually, I'm going to kind of go off script here a little bit. You and I were just on a training this morning together. Do you want to kind of elaborate on what the YWCA is working on, including the board, for some progressive movements forward?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. We have been working with Tangible Development, which is an organization local. They're based in Latham, to help us develop our own anti-racism from our leadership down to from all the way around, not just top to bottom, but from the sides, and what that looks like in our organizational development. Like, how can we go from diversity to inclusion, because they're two different things, and how, as the board, can we facilitate that in our leadership, and how does YWCA really support the people we serve, which we can't do unless we are able to understand the systems that require people to need emergency housing, require how do we have trans-inclusive housing, how do we keep that going, which we have, and how do we keep opening. We have the building's over 100 years old now. So in having a gender neutral bathroom, there's strategy involved in that. You can't just take a bathroom and say, this is now a gender neutral bathroom. You now have to fill that gap. And so Tangible Development is helping us be intentional, purposeful, and integrated in how YWCA can move forward with our community and the people we serve. It's exciting.
I am so excited. Like, every time I come out of a training session, my mind is just, I'm like this sponge, and it's just, I'm absorbing so much information. And it's quite an emotional process, at least for me. I mean, do you feel the same way as well?
It is very emotional because it's very personal work. It requires you to look at yourself first and listen better and more. Yeah. And especially as a white, cisgendered woman, like, I have to remember not that I'm not centered in this. And so how does that translate to my role as a board member on YWCA? How do I help recruit board members to our mission? How do I get people to donate, by like participating in this, donate?
Yes.
How do I translate what I'm learning into actionable points for people? Aside from being privileged enough to be on the board, like, how do I turn this into an actionable point? And we're learning that. It's very, very exciting. And it's emotional.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I appreciate you being so proactive in these trainings, and you have been to every session, and you have actively participated. And I love always hearing your comments and remarks in them. So,
thank you
for being that open-minded, engaged person. So we at the YW need more individuals like yourself. So thank you.
Oh, awesome. I'm just like, oh, shucks, awesome. Like, all the words coming out at the same time.
Don't make me blush.
Yeah.
So you have the opportunity to be on so many different boards. I mean, I think Schenectady, at one point, well over 200 nonprofits in Schenectady County, easily.
Sure.
And you could be on any one of those boards. What makes you want to be a part of this organization's board?
I was recruited by a friend who I had very candid conversations with about my personal journey. And so when it was time, she was on the nominating committee. Back when we were a membership-driven organization, we're no longer a membership-driven organization. And just in being vulnerable with her, she was like, this sounds like Catherine can take her experience and make it something, be less of a, I don't think of myself as a victim as I do a survivor. And I want to take that language into what we do on the board, and the Y. And the Y also works with so many different nonprofits across the county that it's almost like, and being on the board with YWCA, I'm able to learn more about what those organizations do. How can I connect to their mission in a personal way? Because I really think that if you're on the board, there should be more to it than the time, talent, and treasure.
Yep.
Is how we, I believe all boards should look. You can give of your time, of your talent, or your treasure. And I have a lot of time to give, and I'm giving of my treasure, as we should, in this donation drive. And I think my talent is in that empathy. And so that's why I chose YWCA.
That's wonderful. And I know that, like, you have, from the moment that I met you, let's see, I've been here almost 2 years now. And I remember we were having coffee together, I think.
Yeah, it's Story Coffee.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, I just knew that, board members need to be like yourself, and just being so engaged, and that truly shines. And I'm not just buttering you up because we're doing an interview like that. It truly is. And, and you nailed it right on the head: time, treasure, and talent. And you've given all three of those. And correct me if I'm wrong, do you sit on the advocacy committee as well with the board?
Oh my gosh, I had that in my notes that I didn't look at. Yes, I'm on the advocacy committee, and I'm on organizational development.
Oh, I love that.
That's a new one. That's I was recruited for that. Advocacy is really, I find it so fun. We've been in the Pride Parade. We did a refugee film screening for refugees from Syria, and it's from a local filmmaker. So it's the best way to be involved with all those nonprofits that work with YWCA, as opposed to just the lofty, we have these agreements with this organization, we partner with them in providing services. This is a boots on the ground part of being on the board, which is for me is the most engaging and fun.
Now, I was doing an interview last week with Susan, and it sounds like you guys have some upcoming plans potentially for Homelessness Awareness Month, or at least that's on the docket. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
In November, we have that. November is Homelessness Awareness Month, and all the things that surround homelessness. And one of the ideas that we had is to do supply drive, I guess is the way to call it, because what a lot of shelters need, which YWCA is one of many, socks, underwear, sports bras. Those are some of the three most in demand pieces that people need when they're in crisis. And so I'm excited to get that going as a lead up to November, which you can correct me if I'm wrong, people can donate that to YWCA at any time, right? Doesn't have to be November, doesn't have to be on the way to November. Anytime those items are needed.
Yeah, so let's touch on that so that people have the information. And you are absolutely right. So we do collect, donations, in-kind items on a regular basis. Processes, just because of what happened with COVID, we're not opening our doors 100% to the public. So if you have items that you are wanting to donate, this is to our viewers, please reach out to me. My information is on the website. Also, you can email me or call me. What we do is we then just ask the staff if we need such item, which 99% of the time we do. And then we just schedule an appointment and you bring it on in. And then we make sure it gets taken care of and to the right department and the individuals that need it. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's also, a lot of people think that nonprofits will just take anything. And that's not true because, people in crisis deserve to have new things. People in crisis deserve to have things that work. And the best way to support a nonprofit is to ask what they need first, before just showing up with the stuff.
Yes.
So always reach out to Kendra.
Yes. Talk to me first. Oh my gosh. So since that's a great lead into, okay, so we talked about in-kind donations, and I know that you are a regular donor here. Donations meaning monetary donations, and you take it a next step further and you actually donate on a monthly basis, which is fantastic. So tell me why you donate. Now we talked about your time. We talked about your talent. Now let's talk about your treasure. So tell me why you financially support this organization.
The biggest reason I support YWCA is not because I'm on the board. One of the things I love about being a regular monthly donor is I get to set that limit. I think people stop themselves from donating by thinking they have to have a certain amount of money. Any amount of money that you can give is helpful to an organization like YWCA. And I've grown my donation. I'm going to be very honest with you. Mm-hmm. I used to be, Kendra knows this. She has all this in her records. Mm-hmm. I went from donating like $5 a month.
Yeah.
And now I give 15. And there's also this awesome option that I've been noticing a lot on online donating is to cover the processing fee. So YWCA gets my full 15 and the processing organization gets the tip. Yep. And the reason I do that is because it goes to the general fund. YWCA does a lot of grant writing and asking for funds, and that gets earmarked for certain things. Whereas my donation as just a person off the street goes to where you think it needs to go. And my money gives you the power in your hands as to where that money goes. And who knows better how to spend money than YWCA for themselves. So that's why I love giving monthly, because it's just an untethered gift where it's like, just, you got an emergency thing, fix it,
Right. And you bring up some really great points in some of the other interviews that we've had. There's gaps between, what grants cover. There's, we can add some operational costs in with those grants, but you're right. There's these gaps. And, I did an interview last week with Lauren where she's like, guys, it costs money to get a new Social Security card, to get a license, to get all that paperwork that you had to leave, in that particular circumstance behind. And, we got to turn the lights on. If we don't have a building, what would we do with these wonderful 48 residents that live with us? So you're absolutely right. There are gaps in what we can apply for. And so your donation helps us fill those gaps. It's a big deal.
Awesome.
I know. So from your perspective, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but from your perspective, obviously, you give and you give because it goes unrestricted and we've kind of put it where we need to put it. But, what is something that that has impacted our organization by giving funds? What have you seen as an outcome of us being able to take that money that is unrestricted and do?
Well, my whopping $15 a month has gone such a far way. No, it's honestly, I see it in the little things. I see it in new books being in the library in the Cathan room so that the residents get to have up to date, hot off the press literature. I see it in little things like that, which I find those touches like that really hit on the humanity of the women and families we serve. And I find that to be, I'm an avid reader, and so those little things, I find the freedom for YWCA to hire someone like Tangible Development because we've received unrestricted funds. That's something we're able to do thanks to an unrestricted gift from someone. And it's things like that where we're able to really commit to our mission, as we're able to thrive instead of survive thanks to unrestricted funds. And that's what gets me really excited.
Right. And you even mentioned this earlier in your interview. We are now trying to put ourselves in a position where we can be more proactive in our services versus reactive, and to put those systems in place and to be able to have access to funds so that we can start programs where we can work with youth and we can work with teenagers and, the progression of ages and what a healthy relationship looks like versus an unhealthy relationship. And that all requires funds. So
everything costs money, unfortunately. Because the other thing that's important about anti-racism work is when you're hiring people of color, you got to pay them. You've got to pay them. And to ask people of color to do this work simply because, it's their lived experience, or it should be led by a person of color or another marginalized person, like a non-gender conforming person, that costs money. And so giving us these unrestricted funds means that we can put our money where our mouth is.
Right. Yes. I 1000% agree with you. I love it. So before I let you go,
Hmm?
I know that you have been around on the board for a while. And again, I know that you're right down the street. So I'm sure you have many success stories that you could share with us. But think of one success story, and obviously be confidential should you need to be. But can you share one success story that really sticks out to you?
About what the Y's been able to
Yes.
accomplish?
Yeah.
Honestly, and this is no small potatoes. Our wheelchair ramp, our accessibility ramp.
Yeah, go for it. Yes, I know where you're going. Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it may not be in the front of the building, but it is where it needs to be. It's right off of our parking lot on the side of the building. It makes it so that we are available to anyone who needs us. It's an old building, so it already comes with a lot of hurdles for accessibility. It's also old enough that it's been sort of grandmothered into the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Yep.
But that doesn't matter to YWCA, because what matters to YWCA is that people can get to its services. And so that accessibility ramp is more than just a ramp to me. It's a commitment.
I love it. Oh, that's a really great success story. And you're absolutely right. Like, you're absolutely right. And I wasn't around prior to not having a ramp. And I can't even imagine how many individuals we may have had to turn away because of the lack of just being able to get them into the building.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome stuff.
Well, I love it. My heart is fluttering in such a great way. This has been such an amazing interview with you, Catherine. I thank you so much for everything you do for us. So before I let you go and we say goodbye to our viewers, is there anything else, any additional thought that you want to throw out there? It's your opportunity. It is your platform. Go for it.
I would be remiss if I didn't say, please help us reach our goal for the matching funds. I mean, what an amazing opportunity for unrestricted matching funds. What is it going to be? $10,000?
$10,000.
$10,000 is huge. It's another ramp. It's something that could mean a difference for someone receiving our services, and that is invaluable. So if you can give any amount, really, it'll be matched.
Yes.
Any amount.
Yes. Well, thank you, Catherine. I appreciate you and everything you do for our organization. Thank you for carving time out today. We love you. And again, everyone watching, Catherine Stevens, she's on the board here at YWCA. And just as she indicated, make sure you donate today and double your donation. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.